And
Get the question and answer down here for a change.
so let me just add one thing on that. No, I don't believe that a judge should be impeached because we disagree with his rulings. However, I will say that I agree with you completely. The decision both by him and by the Ninth Circuit was clearly political. The fact that the Ninth Circuit ignored the very law that explicitly gives the president the authority that he exercised tells me that that was entirely a political court. You know, a few months before he died, I had the honor to have dinner with Judge Scalia and a small group. And I'll never forget one of the things he said. He said that whenever it came time for him to write a decision overturning the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, he was always tempted to begin the opinion by saying, this case comes to us from the Ninth Circuit Court. But there are many other good reasons to overturn it.
Hi, my name is Laura Roberts, and I live in Mariposa County, on the other side, over by Don Pedro. And I'm here, I'm a nurse. I've been a nurse for some 25 years and have advocated for my patients and my community. And currently in my job, I write policies and procedures in the clinical procedures. So I spend quite a bit of time researching best practices and best evidence to support the policies that I write. And I'm very, very concerned when we have policymakers that don't abide by climate change science and choose to pursue an agenda that makes me question why when they ignore 97% of the scientists who support. It's not fake news, I'm sorry. And I think it's very sad. And I just can't understand that. You go to 97 doctors, they give you the same diagnoses, and you choose to follow the 3 because you like their diagnosis. I don't understand that. And not only that, we have an EPA which provides us with safe water and safe air to the best that they can. And recently, the science in the EPA has been at risk. Climate change language has been taken down, and I can't understand that. It boggles my mind. And not only that, recently, on February 3rd, there has been introduced legislation by a fellow party member of yours from Florida to get rid of the EPA. And we have somebody in charge of the EPA who believes as you do about climate change and has tried to stall any efforts that they have made to try to keep our water clean and our air clean. Yep. And children are suffering from bad air in some places. And years ago, before the EPA, they suffered, and our water was suffering. And so I'd like to know how you're going to vote when that legislation comes up in the House. And if you will vote no on that.
Well, I haven't seen the legislation you're referring to, but I can tell you this. I think the EPA was established for some very important reasons. Economists call it the tragedy of the commons. When you have a common resource like water or air, there is a natural tendency for people to use it to the maximum and to conserve it to the minimum. In other words, if everybody owns it, then nobody's responsible for it. And so the EPA was established for some very good purposes many years ago. But I think over the years, Eric Hoffer once made the point, every great cause becomes a movement, that becomes a business, that becomes a racket. And I'm concerned that a lot of the policies that we assume under that agency are moving from the original intent of the agency to protect our basic air and water to the realm of ideological extremism, where there is enormous damage to our economy.
Which one's that? Show me that one. Let me see. Yeah.
Regarding science. Science thrives on debate. When somebody tells you the debate's over,
Science not to stop to thrive on debate. Science is not up for debate. Fuck, that's crazy.
Hi, Congressman.
And fake alternatives.
My name is Owen. I'm a financial advisor in the Blue Jack here in Mariposa. Just wanted you to know we appreciate all that you do. That's why you keep getting reelected every 2 years. You know our support. We encourage you to continue with the Trump agenda to make America great, to start reversing some of the damage that's been done to our country. I could debate all those points with the people that disagree with me, but we don't have the time, but I could. You can find me if you want to talk. However, what I'd like to say is, as a private property owner, I've been really frustrated at the overreach of federal agencies, including the EPA, telling us what we can and can't do on our property, even to the point of whose water puddle it is and who controls it. I'd like to know what you're going to continue to do to reverse that trend and restore some personal property rights.
Well, as you know, the waters of the United States rule that the EPA propounded has been blocked by the courts for very good reason. The EPA was established with jurisdiction over navigable waters. Back during the Pelosi Congress, they tried to expand their jurisdiction the right way, by going to Congress for legislation to expand their jurisdiction. The Pelosi Congress turned them down. So what did they do? They just decided to invent that jurisdiction themselves. And this is one of the great threats that I see to our country today, is this breakdown of the separation of powers. Article 1 of the Constitution vests all legislative powers in a Congress of the United States. And the reason is, whenever a law was being made, they wanted a great big debate. They engineered our legislative branch to disagree with itself. That's one of the reasons we have two houses of the legislative branch. They wanted every voice in the country heard. They wanted a great big food fight of a decision.
Let's get rid of
They wanted the issue to be held up to every possible conceivable light that it could be. And once that decision's made, then it's handed over to a president who's commanded to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. Now, that division of powers is what keeps us free. I talk to a lot of high school and college groups, and I tell them, what you're learning in the separation of powers is really mother's rule. Mother's rule, you've got one slice of pie, two hungry brothers. How does mother slice the pie so both brothers go away satisfied? One slices, the other chooses. The powers of one check the powers of the other. We all know what would happen if the same brother who sliced got to choose. So it's that separation of powers. One brother makes law but cannot enforce it, another brother enforces law but cannot make it, and then the Supreme Court is there to resolve disputes as an independent body. What these agencies like the EPA have done is to combine those powers that the founding fathers meticulously separated back into the same hands. Madison in the Federalist said that is the very foundation of tyranny, when all the powers are concentrated in the same hands. The agencies that now write these rules, which have the force of law, also enforce them. And after they enforce them, if they accuse you of violating them, before you can go to the federal courts that respect your due process rights, you must first go to an administrative law judge who works for the same agency, and by the way, most times gets to keep whatever fines they assess you. That is a very serious danger in a nation that is based upon separation of powers. That's what the EPA exemplifies today, and that's why we've got to restore that separation, restore the agency to its original mission, to enforce the law, not to make it.
Congressman McClintock, thank you very much for being here, and thank you, friends, neighbors, This is a very peaceful group, I would think, disputative but still peaceful. I've lived here 47 years. I've never seen anything like this. It's pretty impressive. And people have deep concerns. My particular one is public lands. And in particular, we're all backed up by a lot of public land, Forest Service, BLM, Park Service. You have a bill in Congress now that addresses law enforcement on public lands. I believe it's H.R. 622, which you may co-sponsor or certainly are signed on to. That's Jason Shafitz. And that is also called Local Law Enforcement for Local Land. Now notice that I did mention this with Bureau of Land Management, which is the Interior Department, not local, and also Forest Service, which is Department of Agriculture, not local. Huge amounts of land that are at our back. Your proposal there, or his, that you sign on to, is to have that legislation take effect at the end of September, that's 7 months from now, at which time, if the funding idea is in place, it will devolve not on the state, presumably. Highway Patrol doesn't know about the South Fork of the Mississippi, but maybe Doug Benoist does, the man that you praise so much and that we like. Now, your idea then is to turn over law enforcement for all BLM and all Forest Service to presumably our county sheriff, who's actually quite busy with fire issues these days too, aside from being a sheriff, an actual sheriff, which he does, you know, but it's a lot of hats to wear. You're adding a new one, and I hope to talk to him about that, because that's, of course, the important thing, safety, not just attacking public land. Now, what is this doing for Mariposa, this H.R. 622? What does that do for us? I see it as increasing fire danger, increasing mafia activity in the area, reducing policing in the area in the name of devolution to local interest, which may well turn out to be lawlessness in that area. All right, we have a lot of public lands, and you want Sheriff Benoist to take over with some block grant so that he can do that job too. You know, it's a pretty big thing here. It doesn't make any sense. How do you explain it?
Very simply, I told you one of the most important, one of the overarching goals we have on the Federal Land Subcommittee is to restore the federal government as a good neighbor to those communities that are impacted by the public lands. One of the most common complaints that my office gets is the abuse of authority by law enforcement connected to federal land managers. The BLM and the Forest Service prime among them. These are land managers. They should not be enforcing laws. If you want to enforce a law, you ought to call the sheriff, who knows the communities and is in the ideal position to assess the situation and is accountable to the local people who are most profoundly impacted by those activities. So I see that very much in line with our pledge to restore the federal government as a good neighbor. And by the way, two, and I think maybe even now three, but two for sure, county sheriffs in this district alone have withdrawn the authority for the federal government to enforce state and local laws because of those abuses by the federal law enforcement agencies. Law enforcement is best when it is kept closest to the people. That's why we have a sheriff, and that's why we love it. We're having